Hey, Trotwood family. It's good to see you all again. First off, I would like to say I really, really missed everybody today. It was weird not having any students on a Tuesday. Um, but what I can say is that I'm grateful that we're getting this opportunity to kind of take a step back and take care of our own personal selves for our health and whatnot. And in the meanwhile, hopefully you guys are enjoying a little bit of time off of school. I know I am. I'm going to thoroughly enjoy some time to relax and hopefully get some stuff done around my own house. But in the meanwhile, as you well know, I'm getting ready to start a live streaming here for you on a more regular basis, just to kind of keep in touch with you, and hopefully you'll enjoy it as much as I think I will. And I don't know, maybe it'll be boring, maybe it won't. I don't know. It's Miss C. Sometimes I am, and sometimes I'm weird, but we'll find out what happens, right? First thing on the agenda, I guess, since it is bedtime stories with Mrs. C, I'm going to introduce you to, like, I guess, a traditional type bedtime story that's for like younger children. And then for my older viewers out there, I'm going to introduce like a YA novel that I think you guys really will like, that I'm going to read to you tonight. For the younger viewers, I guess there's this book right here that I thought you might find interesting. There we go. This one is actually called Catalina Magdalena Hoopenstein Hohenheimer Hogan Logan Bogan was her name. It's by Ted Arnold. He does a lot of great children's books. So if you're interested in doing like a children's book further in the future, we can do that. They're very short, but they're a lot of fun to play with. And for who I was thinking that this live stream is for, bedtime stories for the older kids, we're going to start with a book called Skeleton Creek. It is written by an author by the name of Patrick Carman. He's a YA author that has written a couple of things you may have already heard of. The 39 Clues series is a series that he does that you may have read already. And he's won many, many awards for children's literature. So hopefully you'll enjoy this reading of Skeleton Creek. We're only going to do a few pages in. I will get you introduced to the series, and then based on what you guys say, is whether or not we'll continue it or we'll try something new. You just got to let me know. So either way, to the point of tonight's bedtime story, Skeleton Creek. All right. Monday, September 13th, 5:30 a.m. There was a moment not long ago when I thought, this is it. I'm dead. I think about that night all the time, and I feel the same fear I felt then. It happened 2 weeks ago, but 14 days and nights of remembering have left me more afraid and uncertain than ever, which I guess means it isn't over yet. Something tells me it may never truly be over. Last night was the first time I slept in my own room since everything happened. I'd gotten in the habit of waking in the hospital to the sound of a nurse's shuffling feet, the dry, chalk dust smell of her skin, and the soft shaking of my shoulder. The doctor will visit you in a moment. He'll want you awake. Can you sit up for me, Ryan? There was no nurse or doctor or chalky smell this morning, only the early train crawling through the town to wake me up at 5:30. But in my waking mind, it wasn't a train I heard. It was something more menacing, trying to sneak past in the early dawn, glancing down the dead-end streets, hunting. I was scared, and then I was relieved, because my overactive imagination had settled back into its natural resting state of fear and paranoia. In other words, I was back home in Skeleton Creek. Usually when the morning train wakes me up, I go straight to my desk and start writing before the rest of the town starts to stir. But this morning, after shaking the idea that something was stalking me, I had a sudden urge to leap from my bed and jump on board the train. It was a feeling I didn't expect and hadn't the slightest chance of acting on. But still, I wondered where the feeling had come from. Now, I've rested this journal on my TV tray with its legs torn off, propped myself up in bed with a couple of pillows, and have started doing the one thing I can still do that has always made me feel better. I've begun to write about that night and all that comes after. So, as I'm sure you've already guessed, this book is written like a diary or a journal. Specifically, the main character is Ryan, and then the secondary main character is a girl named Sarah, who we're going to meet very, very soon here. And so you'll notice as we go through that everything's kind of written like it's on a piece of regular paper. And in the top, there's like dates and times and things like that. So you can get a gauge of where you are in the time. So this first chapter here was Monday, September 13th, 5:30 a.m. And now we're moving to 6:03 a.m. on the same day. I need to take breaks. It still hurts to write. Physically, mentally, emotionally. It seems like every part of me is broken in one way or another. But I have to start doing it again. 2 weeks in the hospital without a journal left me starving for words. I've kept a lot of journals, but this one is especially important for 2 reasons. Reason number 1, I'm not writing this for myself. I'm putting these words down for someone else to find, which is something I never do. Reason number 2, I have a strong feeling that this will be the last journal I ever write. My name, in case someone finds this and cares to know who wrote it, is Ryan. I'm almost old enough to drive, although this would require access to a car, which I lack. I'm told that I'm tall for my age, but need to gain weight or there's no hope of making the varsity cut next year. I have a great hope that I will remain thin. I can imagine what this morning would have been like before the accident. I would be getting ready for the hour-long bus ride to school. I would have so much to say to Sarah. An hour next to her was always time well spent. We had so much in common, which kept us from going completely crazy in a town populated by just under 700 people. I'm really going to miss those conversations with Sarah. I wonder if I'll get lonely. The truth is, I don't even know if I'm allowed to mention her name, but I can't stop. I am a writer. This is what I do. My teachers, parents, even Sarah, they all say I write too much, that I'm obsessive about it. But then, in the same breath, they can't help but mention that I'm gifted. Like when Miss Garvey told me I understand words and their usage in the same way a prodigy on the piano understands notes and sounds. But I have a much simpler answer, and I'm pretty sure I'm more right than my teacher is. I've written a lot, every day, every year, for as many years in a row. Practice makes perfect. I think my favorite writers are those who admitted while they were still alive that they couldn't live without writing. John Steinbeck, Ernest Hemingway, Robert Frost, guys who put writing up there in the same category as air and water. Write or die trying. That kind of thinking agrees with me. Because here I am, write or die trying. If I turn back the pages in all the journals I've written, I basically find 2 things. Scary stories of my own creation and the recording of strange occurrences in Skeleton Creek. I can't say for certain why this is so, other than to fall back on the old adage that a writer writes what he knows. And I've known fear all my life. I don't think I'm a coward. I wouldn't be in the position I'm in now if I was a coward. But I am the sort of person who overanalyzes, worries, frets. When I hear a noise scratching under the bed, either real or imagined, I stare at the ceiling for hours and wonder what it might be that's trying to claw its way out. I picture it with fangs, long bony fingers, and bulging red eyes. For a person who worries like I do and has a vivid imagination to match, Skeleton Creek is the wrong sort of place to endure childhood. I know my writing has changed in the past year. The 2 kinds of writing, the made-up scary stories and the documenting of events in Skeleton Creek, have slowly become one. I don't have to make up stories any longer because I'm more certain than ever that the very town I live in is haunted. This is the truth. And the truth, I've learned, can kill you. I'm tired now. So tired. I have to put this down, even if I can't stop thinking about it. Okay. Well, for our first ever set of chapters in this book, hopefully this has got your curiosity piqued. You can see where he's going with this. Obviously, we're talking about his town, Skeleton Creek, and I'm kind of curious to see where he goes with it. But you got to let me know. If you want to keep reading Skeleton Creek, we can absolutely do that. If you want to find out what the actual mysteries are in the book. The best thing about this book, just to kind of get you interested a little more, is these. There are pictures in here that include little passwords to a website. And his friend Sarah does videos that go along with his journal. And so it's pretty interesting to see what she actually puts, and they're kind of scary. So as a sneak peek, I'll put this up here for a few seconds, and you guys can check it out online. It's sarahfincher.com, and the password is Houseofusher. And you can actually see a character there. So if you're interested in finding out a little bit of the mystery and seeing what's going on, and whether or not you really, really want to get excited with this, go right ahead and check that website out and that password. I'll leave a link in the description as well as the password. And then you guys can also tell me whether or not you want to hear some more of this, or if you want some traditional bedtime stories, something like this, which is more of like a rhyming kind of old school young kids stuff. But like I said, either way, I'm good for either, and you guys just got to let me know. So anyways, great first day. It was so good to see everybody, and I missed you all today, and hopefully I'll get to see you soon. All right. I am going to go ahead and sign off. Later.